I'm moving in with my parents today. If you don't like it, we can divorce and you can leave. Ryan stood defiantly, with a smug look on his face as he looked at me. Then you're fired and can leave the company. I confronted Ryan with my true feelings. I sighed softly and looked at Ryan with cold eyes. Ryan, seeing my gaze, tensed up visibly. Anxiety spread across his face. My name is Kelly, 44 years old. I run a company that manufactures vehicles and parts for transportation. The company was founded by my grandfather, making me the third generation. It's a family-run business. Originally, I had no intention of taking over the company and wanted to lead a normal life. I wasn't particularly good at school and planned to find a job at a general company after graduating. In fact, I landed a job at an IT company. However, when I was 26, my parents died in an unexpected accident. I have an older brother who loves research and is always holed up in his graduate lab. My father left a will stating that I was to become the next president of the company. After that, it felt like I was on a roller coaster. I quit my current job and joined my father's company. The role of president was temporarily filled by the executive vice president, and I worked hard to learn the job. I worked tirelessly, sparing no moment even for sleep, to learn everything about the products we made and how to manage the business. At first, people treated me delicately, as if I were a delicate flower, but gradually they opened up to me. Gradually, I found the work interesting and became president at the age of 40. I've lived for my work, dedicating my life to the company. As everyone around me got married, I didn't have a single boyfriend. I always prioritized work over leisure. I traveled domestically and internationally for the company, so much so that I hardly remember holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving. Because of this, my relatives started to nag me about finding a successor. Every time I met relatives at gatherings, they would insensitively tell me to hurry up or I won't be able to have children. Aren't you lonely? Some would ask. I knew arguing would only bring more nagging. So I just smiled wryly and left the conversation quickly. Thanks to dedicating my life to the company, our performance steadily improved. Incorporating IT played a big part in this. I started to have a bit more free time and could enjoy my leisure time. That's when I met Ryan, and we met through bowling. A client recommended it, and I took it up lightly, finding it suited my personality and got quite into it. I even bought my own ball and shoes and started participating in tournaments. Ryan was someone I frequently saw at the bowling alley. He was fun to talk to, taught me many things I didn't know, and we even entered tournaments as a pair. After going out to eat several times, Ryan confessed his feelings on one of those occasions, and we started dating. Ryan is the same age as me, but often looks younger, sometimes even in his 20s. I've often been mistaken for his older sister. You probably think I'm unreliable, he would say, looking embarrassed every time. Ryan has many hobbies. From baseball to soccer and golf, he not only likes watching sports but also playing them. Influenced by him, I took up golf. It wasn't just sports, he also took me to concerts and theaters. Ryan introduced me to a world I never knew, and I became completely captivated by him. The time I spent with Ryan was very stimulating and fun for me. My first boyfriend at 44. It wouldn't be strange for me to feel elated. Amidst these light-hearted days, Ryan suddenly said something unexpected. Would you meet my parents? I was at a loss for words at his sudden request. If I'm gonna marry, it's gonna be you, Kelly. I want to introduce you to my parents. It has been about 2 months since we officially started dating. It felt a bit early, but I wasn't young anymore. I wasn't without my anxieties. But I was also happy. I had no intention of refusing. A week later, we visited Ryan's family home. The house was neatly arranged, with a faintly pleasant smell. In the living room, Ryan's dad and mom welcomed us. Ryan's mom had an elegant air about her, with her hair dyed a beautiful shade of purple. My son is lucky to be dating someone as adorable as you, she said with a beaming smile. You're truly a wonderful young lady. Receiving such praise made me feel a tickle of unease on my back. Ryan's parents continued to shower me with compliments until I blushed. Ryan, sitting beside me, looked proud. Right? Finding someone like her at 44 is a real catch. Ryan said with a laugh, but I felt a bit uncomfortable with his wording. A sense of unease began to spread in my chest. But Ryan and his parents were all smiles, making me think that getting along with such lovely in-laws after marriage would be possible. The anxiety I felt earlier vanished. However, I noticed Ryan calling his parents mommy and daddy. I used to call my parents mommy and daddy too, but is it common for adult men to do the same? It seems rare. Perhaps I'm just out of touch with societal norms. Having lost my parents early and being focused on work, I admit I'm not well-versed in social conventions. I decided not to dwell on it, assuming it's just me being unconventional. Surely, Ryan must have a good relationship with his parents. Ryan often praised his mother, which is usually a good thing. However, when we were talking about cooking, Ryan made a comment that felt off. Mommy's meatloaf is the best in the world. He even slightly belittled the meat and potatoes I made. Kelly's meatloaf just isn't as good as Mommy's. Hearing this, I couldn't manage a smile. Perfect, you should get the recipe from her, Ryan said in a tone different from usual. Why was he being so authoritative? Unaware of my ambiguous expression, he exchanged smiles with his mother. Ryan's mother started writing down the meat and potatoes recipe. With this, Kelly, you can make something similar to Mommy's. I was unsure whether to be happy or not. My expression turned into the vague smile I reserve for relatives. As the evening grew darker and it was time to leave, the conversation turned to marriage. I'd marry you right now if I could. It'd make life easier, especially since freelancing doesn't pay much, Ryan said, shocking me. What? Freelancer? My eyes widened. Ryan had said he worked in sales. I hadn't told him about my job either. I just worked at a company making parts. I was embarrassed to say I was the CEO, but I had no idea Ryan was a freelancer. Stunned, Ryan snapped at me. You thought just because he's 44, right? There's a deep reason behind it. Apparently, Ryan's mother has always been frail and sickly. Moreover, 2 years ago, his father became seriously ill and needed care. Ryan, who was working in sales at a printing company, quit his job to take care of his father and became a freelancer to manage his time for caregiving. It's tough on Mommy alone. I just wanted to be there for my parents, Ryan said, tearing up. I listened solemnly. I thought it'd be okay to continue freelancing for their sake. Glancing at his parents, Ryan nodded. Daddy's been doing better lately, so I'm considering re-entering the workforce, especially now that I'm marrying Kelly. I gotta step up, he said, sniffling. I felt ashamed for feeling disappointed upon learning he was a freelancer. Ryan had simply prioritized his parents over his job. What a kind and warm-hearted person he is. All my previous anxieties and discomfort had completely disappeared. A few days later, I made a suggestion to Ryan. Why don't you try applying for a position at my company? Ryan seemed surprised by my sudden proposal. Only if you're okay with it, of course. I was careful not to pressure him. Ryan seemed hesitant about working at the same company as me. Our sales department is actually short on people. It would really help if you could join. I chose my words carefully, not wanting to hurt his pride. You'd be in a completely different department from me. However, Ryan's concerns were elsewhere. If I'm gonna work, I want to earn. I want to make Mommy feel secure. It was all about the money, then. Did he think I wasn't earning enough? So, I pulled out my tablet and showed Ryan our company's job site, detailing the average salary, holidays, paid leave, and benefits. This might not be too bad, Ryan said, looking over the tablet with growing interest. Just as the company was looking to significantly expand its sales team, Ryan was hired without a hitch. I had informed my secretary about Ryan's application from the moment it was submitted, thinking I might ask her to handle any potential issues in the future. I also had another request for the secretary related to our website. Ryan and I decided to get married as soon as he got the job. We didn't have a ceremony. I didn't want my relatives to know, and I wanted to keep it a secret from Ryan that I was the CEO. I was surprised how easily his parents agreed, fearing they would object. His mother was only concerned about how often we could visit their home. Instead of a wedding, we held a small dinner at a restaurant and postponed our honeymoon. I was busy with work, but Ryan also seemed unenthusiastic about a honeymoon. Can't be away from mommy and daddy, can I? There it was again. Mommy and daddy. It just didn't sit right with me. We decided against moving into a new house recommended by a real estate agent. Considering Ryan's freelancer status, it seemed best to avoid unnecessary expenses. After some thought, we chose my apartment as our new home. Ryan agreed. Probably because it was closer to his parents' house. After moving in together, Ryan's attitude began to change. He started looking down on me. Which department are you in? Ryan didn't seem to see me as a business owner. I didn't intend to keep it a secret, but I preferred it not to be widely known. Then, Ryan said something unbelievable. Well, it doesn't matter. You'll be quitting anyway. I was shocked. Quit? Who's quitting? What was he talking about? Was it not Ryan, but me who was supposed to quit? A bad feeling washed over me. Ryan glanced at me and smirked with an unfamiliar, unsettling smile. I felt a chill. Got a problem with that? Ryan looked at me coldly. My heart is racing. I managed to say I had no intention of quitting my job, clutching my chest. Then it hit me. Maybe Ryan wanted children. Are you thinking about when we will have kids? Our company has excellent maternity and paternity leave. Ryan interrupted with something unbelievable. Kids are out of the question. Got my hands full with mommy and daddy. I was confused, tilting my head. Ryan sighed heavily, exasperated. My parents, I told you. They need care. His sudden loud voice made me tense up. I tried to respond. I heard about your father's condition, but you said he's been doing better, which is why you re-entered the workforce. Even if he's better now, they're both old. Ryan snapped, anger flaring. Aren't you worried at all? His yelling filled the room, leaving me bewildered. I tried to calm down and sort through his words. It seemed Ryan intended to push his parents' care onto me, expecting me to quit my job to focus on it. After venting, Ryan smirked. Well, I won't ask you to quit immediately. Dual income brings in more money, after all. It seems my earnings were now the priority. We'll be going back to my parents' house on our days off. Every week? I intended to help as much as possible, but being pushed to provide care every week was too much. What surprised me the most was Ryan's attitude. Before we got married, Ryan was a fun-loving person with many interests, always finding joy in everything and reliably positive. I was at a loss for words by how much he had changed. Especially since a real estate agent had contacted us about a new house close to his parents' home, which was highly sought after, and I had gone ahead and signed the contract, hoping it would bring back the old Ryan. Now, the thought of going to his parents' house filled me with dread. Yet his parents always welcomed me warmly. It's good of you to come. We have some cookies someone gave us, let's have them together. His father said with a smile that reached his eyes. Sorry to have you come over on your day off. His mother said, showing great consideration for me. No, not at all. Having Kelly here makes it feel like my daughter has come home. His mother said, her eyes welling up with tears, and I felt the same warmth in my eyes. I decided to proceed with the new house purchase, thinking it would be all right with his parents around. His mother always prepared my favorite sweets whenever I visited, touching my heart each time. Despite not wanting to be dictated by Ryan, seeing his mother's happy face made me feel at ease. Eventually, Ryan and I started visiting his parents' house separately due to my work schedule, making it impossible to visit every weekend. Sometimes, I had to spend weekends out of town on business trips, so I made up for it by visiting during the weekdays. One weekday, I headed to his parents' house, familiar enough not to ring the doorbell. As I quietly entered and headed to the living room, I heard Ryan's voice, which was odd since he was supposed to be at work. Approaching the living room, I overheard a disturbing conversation and stopped to listen. "She's not very considerate, you know, and terrible at housework," said his mother, a tone I had never heard before. "Couldn't you find someone better?" It sounded nothing like the kind and gentle woman I knew. I felt a tightness in my chest. My hands are going cold. After all the praise and gentle moments shared, to hear such harsh words was shocking. I couldn't bring myself to leave, even though I didn't want to hear any more. Ryan's sly, smooth voice followed. "Sorry, Mommy, but she's pretty sturdy and should be good for physical work." I felt a growing revulsion towards Ryan. "It's all about training. With the right guidance, she'll be useful," he said. "I'm not Ryan and his mother's servant or slave. For now, we need her money, so we'll put up with it. We have high hopes for the future." They continued, laughing carelessly. I felt dizzy, my heart sinking. Despite the shock from Ryan's words, his mother's betrayal hit me harder. All her kindness, the shared moments of laughter, the cooking lessons. Was it all an act? Always smiling, sometimes with tears in her eyes. Was that all just an act? If so, staying in this marriage out of concern for her was a waste. It seemed I was merely seen as caregiving staff. And then, the final blow from his mother. "For now, we'll keep praising her, making her as happy as a fool." I felt faint. Her harsh words unending. "Learn from me how to manipulate her. And guess what? She bought a house nearby," Ryan said, sounding pleased. "How did he find out?" "The real estate agent called the house." I realized the real estate agent had called our home. A mistake on my part for not insisting on mobile contact only. "Isn't that great? Now we can make her work even harder for us," his mother said with a disdainful laugh. I had heard enough and quietly left the house, my grip on my phone so tight my hand was numb. On my way home, I sent Ryan and his mother a message saying I suddenly felt unwell. If I had known it would come to this, I would have never married. The word divorce was floating around in my head. I've always been someone who acts quickly once I've made up my mind. I always choose regretting doing something over not doing it at all. In society's eyes, divorcing so soon after getting married might seem bad. But considering the time spent with someone I dislike, sooner seemed better. I couldn't stand living with Ryan anymore. I immediately prepared the divorce papers. I'll also cancel the new house contract. If not handled well, I could lose my assets through property division. However, I think I'll be okay if I use Ryan's emotional abuse as leverage. I have both an excellent consulting lawyer and a sincere secretary on my side. After making my decision, I decided to act more cautiously. I avoided confronting Ryan and continued to pretend to be submissive. According to reports from my secretary, Ryan had caused several problems at work. This was just the tip of the iceberg. It seemed that divorcing Ryan wouldn't be enough to sever ties completely. I wanted to resolve the workplace issues quickly and then proceed with the divorce as soon as possible. And I decided to keep it a secret that I am the president of the company. If Ryan or his parents found out before the divorce, it could complicate things. Although it was embarrassing, I told my secretary everything. With her help, I steadily prepared for the divorce. Life with Ryan was suffocating, and I felt like I wasn't truly alive. Once I had a plan in place, I ran into Ryan at work. "Perfect timing," he said, approaching me with a full smile. He pulled me into an empty meeting room. You're hiding something from me, aren't you? Ryan's sneering laugh sent shivers down my spine. I heard you bought a house. Got a call saying it's ready to move in. I sighed inwardly. So, that was it. I'm moving in with my parents today. If you don't like it, we can divorce and you can leave. I was utterly disgusted. It seemed the time had come to face Ryan directly. He stood defiantly, smirking at me, thinking I would admit defeat and comply with his demands. The days of listening to him for his mother's sake were over. I had thought his parents were good people who cared about me. But after seeing his mother's true nature, I had no intention of confiding in his parents anymore. Then you're fired and can leave the company. I smiled at Ryan and confronted him with the truth. Huh? Ryan let out a perplexed noise, but probably thought it was some weird joke. He quickly regained his composure and laughed it off. Fired? You're not my boss. Have you lost your mind? I sighed softly and looked at Ryan with cold eyes. Seeing my gaze, Ryan tensed up. Anxiety spread across his face. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. The funny thing is you not knowing the face of your company's president. I showed Ryan the company newsletter featuring an interview with me as the president, with my photo included. Ryan stared at the newsletter as if trying to bore holes through it, then looked back at me. You? No way, you're lying. His face drained of color as he muttered to himself. Got it now? Ryan seemed to collapse on the spot as if all the strength had left his body. No, it's not like that, Kelly. I didn't know anything. He pleaded, trembling and his voice shaking pathetically. Didn't know? No, you just didn't bother to find out. He could have known at any time if he wanted. The company newsletter was available in the break room and cafeteria, and a simple search on his smartphone or PC would bring up my photo. Even if the company website was deleted, my photo could still be found online. Simply put, Ryan wasn't interested. He lacked passion for his work, thus being relegated to menial tasks within the company. To him, the only important things at work were income, time off, and benefits. I was just another unimportant thing to him. But I needed more. We're not done here. We haven't finished talking about the divorce. Ryan visibly panicked. Do you even understand what you're saying? He never thought I would agree to a divorce. Yes, I can't become the ideal lady you want me to be. So, divorce is the only option. I pulled out the divorce papers from my bag. I had kept the divorce papers with me ever since I decided to divorce. Do you realize what you're doing? Ryan looked incredulously between the divorce papers and me. I took out a pen and placed it on the table. Sign it quickly. Ryan was frozen, his face drained of color. Oh, not divorcing? Was it all talk? Snapping back to reality, Ryan slammed the divorce papers on the table and signed them hastily. Now we are strangers to each other, I stated matter-of-factly. Don't come to regret it. Talking back to your husband is a failure as a wife, Ryan said mockingly. Good riddance. A woman who chooses her job over mommy and daddy, glad to be rid of you, he added, sounding like he was making excuses. Oh, my apologies, I replied calmly, not minding his comments. What are you going to do after divorcing? You know how sad my parents will be without you? Do you understand how lonely they'll feel? How ridiculous. They talked behind my back together. I was so angry that I couldn't find the words. I wanted to lash out at Ryan right there, but all I could do was clench my teeth and glare at him. Taking advantage of my silence, Ryan continued to berate me. Poor mommy and daddy, they said they're hungry and there's nothing to eat. So what? There are stores and supermarkets near their house. Go back to your parents. You can still make amends. Ryan arrogantly ordered me around. His parents aren't so immobile that they require care. It's just laziness. Enough is enough. We are strangers now. And I have an important meeting to attend today, I managed to say. Anger brought me to a state of calm clarity. If it's so important, you should take a leave and go yourself. I refused to sacrifice my important company for the likes of them. I've been patient and obedient enough. Ryan, not expecting me to talk back, stepped back. You're talking back to me? For a wife, that's out of line. I've said it multiple times, but I'm not his wife anymore. Plus, Ryan's values are skewed. He must think a wife is a slave to her husband, silently obeying. And he only imposes things that are convenient for him. What do you mean a wife's place? Who do you think you are? I confronted Ryan without holding back. He gritted his teeth in frustration. They're your parents. Why don't you take care of them yourself before pushing it onto someone else? If they're so important, Ryan can take a leave and visit his mother himself. His job was just organizing the storeroom. With no deadlines or external appointments. He could easily take a day off if he talked to his boss, but he pushes it onto me. His mother's condition can't be that bad. It's just a desire to use me as they please. Ridiculous. Why should I have to take a leave for them? He's so selfish, even about his own parents. Ryan's illogical reasoning seems endless. Listen well. Taking care of mommy and daddy is your job. I'm tired of hearing mommy and daddy. What do you expect from me? I don't expect a sensible answer, but I asked Ryan anyway. Ryan scoffed and replied, You're supposed to take care of everything for mommy and daddy. I couldn't believe how absurd Ryan was being. How shameless can he get? I'm a stranger now. Take a leave and go yourself. I stated plainly. Ryan choked up, unable to respond. The care of his mother shouldn't be pushed onto me. He should take a leave and handle it himself. To do nothing and complain only to me is outrageous. You would have been satisfied with anyone who would take care of your parents, wouldn't you? Ryan opened and closed his mouth, shaking his head. His face was pale. That's not true. If I had known Kelly was the president, I wouldn't have made her take care of them. Despite saying know your place as a wife earlier, Ryan quickly changed his tune. Deep down, I knew he wanted to exploit me to his advantage. And this was his way of flattering me. However, Ryan gave himself away with his next comment. With enough money, you can hire someone. There it was, the crux of the matter. Ryan always relied on others. So, caregiving is someone else's responsibility, huh? Are you planning to just play around with mommy while doing nothing? That's not it. Ryan said with a forced smile. Suggesting maybe a different future could have been possible if they had manipulated me better. The thought alone was horrifying. What if I hadn't known the true nature of Ryan's parents? I might have happily agreed to his proposals. There could have been a possibility where Ryan focused on caregiving, and I was the breadwinner. Ryan had squandered that chance himself. It might have been a stroke of luck for me. Ryan looked up at me with tearful eyes, pleading. Please, let's start over. We were good together, weren't we? Let's go places again. I remembered the various places Ryan took me on dates before we got married. The places you took me were fun. I acknowledged, and Ryan's face lit up. Perhaps thinking there was a chance. I was foolish to be deceived. It's been hell since we got married. I glanced at my watch, indicating I was in a hurry. Well, I have a meeting to prepare for. I'll contact you about the dismissal. Waving lightly at Ryan, I reached for the door to leave. Before I could open it, Ryan grabbed my left hand. Turning around, I found Ryan glaring at me. We're not done here. Getting fired and divorced, do you think I'll just accept that? Ryan confronted me with tearful eyes. And what's this about being the president? His words trailed off, and eventually, he let go of my hand. The divorce was Ryan's idea in the first place. And it was their fault I couldn't reveal I was the president. Ryan probably never expected me to accept the divorce. He thought threatening me with divorce would make me obey him. And my being the president must have been a shock. Not something an adult should do. Ryan clenched his jaw. likely regretting the money he had lost, but that was not my concern. It just shows how foolish you were, I said, and Ryan exploded in a reversed voice. Coward! Is it right for a big company's president to fire an employee just because of a divorce? That's tyranny. Whether he had lost his reason or was just being defiant, Ryan puffed out his chest. His thinking was too childish. Unable to accept what I said, he was just throwing a tantrum. Too tired to deal with Ryan, I covered my face with my hands. And Ryan grinned, thinking he had hit the mark. Right on target, huh? Should I make a scene? You'd be the one in trouble. I was exhausted. Though I thought about keeping silent, I pulled out a piece of paper from my bag. Reading the names written on it. Ms. Smith from General Affairs, Ms. West and Ms. Brown from Sales, and Ms. Ortega from Accounting. I then looked at Ryan, who was sweating. There are more names, you know. Ryan stepped back towards the wall, trying to distance himself. The names I just mentioned are of women you've been persistently hitting on. This issue was reported to me by my secretary. Complaints had come into HR, and my secretary informed me. The only person in the company who knew Ryan and I were married was my secretary. When I heard it from her, I couldn't believe it. That my husband was hitting on several female employees. And quite persistently, it seemed. I was so embarrassed by this revelation that I felt like my face was on fire. I was just trying to foster better relations among staff. Ryan made a pathetic excuse. As if such a lame excuse would work. Inviting them to a hotel, what kind of relations were those? Ryan was left mumbling, unable to form words. I had messages sent to my smartphone from the women as evidence. The content was embarrassingly cringeworthy. Ryan had no way out. He needed to face the consequences. Removing a troublemaker from the company is part of a president's job, I told him firmly. Ryan slumped, defeated. To further corner him, I pulled out an envelope from my bag. This is from accounting. It seems you've tampered with some receipts. Ryan reluctantly took the envelope, avoiding my gaze, and fell silent. A mama's boy who leaves everything to others, a womanizer, and on top of that, stingy. Ryan has been a nuisance not just to me, but to many others. It's a fact that he's the worst kind of person, yet I had believed in him. I'm disappointed in myself for not seeing his true colors. Anyway, you're fired. You will be held accountable. I turned on my heel and opened the door to the meeting room. As expected, Ryan didn't try to stop me. He was slumped against the wall, powerless. Well then. Enjoy your time with your parents at your family home. Ryan collapsed on the spot, mumbling something, but I left him behind and exited the room. After a while, my secretary brought me an official report. Following the report, Ryan was immediately dismissed for disciplinary reasons. I issued an apology to the female employees affected. In the name of the president, ensuring their mental well-being is not neglected, monitored through my secretary. Regular reports on Ryan's behavior also come through the secretary from a private investigator. According to the reports, Ryan, now jobless, returned to live with his parents. He tried to start working again as a freelancer, but then something unexpected happened. His father was diagnosed as needing care. And shortly after, his mother developed dementia. Ryan ended up caring for both his father and mother. His mother sometimes wanders at night, leading to sleepless nights for Ryan. Working during the day and caring for his parents afterward, he said he didn't have enough bodies to cope. I need help. Please provide some financial assistance. Ryan contacted me several times. If the divorce had been amicable, I might have helped. However, Ryan and his family treated me like a slave. There's no room for sympathy for such people. Each time, I responded to Ryan with a professional tone. I am unable to assist you. Please refrain from further contact. Should it continue, appropriate actions will be taken. After that, Ryan stopped contacting me. Deciding that I had enough of marriage after divorcing Ryan, I chose to live on my own. I kept the new house I had contracted and rented it out. It's on land likely to appreciate in value, so there shouldn't be any loss. Work is going well, and the company's performance is on the rise. Work has become my purpose in life, and I'm more devoted to it than ever. However, I can't quit bowling, which Ryan introduced me to. I still participate in tournaments and have joined a bowling community circle. Most members are older than me, providing a wealth of life experience to learn from. Recently, a man close to my age joined the group. Unlike Ryan, he's gentle, unassuming, and reserved. Yet, when he gets a strike, his joyous expression is so charming, I find myself secretly thrilled. For now, I keep telling myself that my job is my life. Someday, happiness will come my way, too. With that hope, I continue to dedicate myself to work every day. My name is Michelle, I'm 30 years old. I got married 2 years ago and am currently enjoying a dual income, no kids lifestyle with my husband. That's what it seems like on the surface, but in reality, we've been struggling with infertility since we got married, and we've finally started undergoing fertility treatments. Despite my husband's frequent business trips, we're trying our best to start a new family together. Today, my sister, who reached out to me saying you must be bored, right, during my husband's business trip this weekend, and I managed to get a reservation at a high-end restaurant that's hard to book.
Are we okay here? Don't we stick out?
I whisper to my sister sitting across from me in the semi-private room. It's fine, you'd be surprised how many regular employees come here.
If you say so. But how did you manage to get us in?
My husband's got connections here. He heard they had a cancellation, so he suggested I take you. Your husband is such a sweetheart. Being the son of a big corporation's executive really makes a difference in kindness and everything else.
Hey, that's too much teasing.
Oh, sorry. As my sister and I were whispering, we overheard voices from the next booth.
To the new addition to our family, cheers! Next time, let's come with our baby, too.
The voices were clear enough to be heard on our side, and to my shock, I recognized my husband's voice. Listening intently, there was no mistaking it, it was indeed my husband's voice. Hey, isn't Isaac supposed to be on a business trip today? He said he wouldn't be back until the weekend.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. So, he lied to Michelle?
It seems so, given the reality we're facing.
Michelle, are you okay?
What do you mean?
I mean, the conversation we just overheard.
Well, if you're asking if I'm okay, I'm not.
And it was quite. I mean, really shocking content, wasn't it?
Yeah, something about a new family and a baby.
I heard it too. What's going on?
My sister and I looked at each other, unable to hide our confusion. The cheerful voices from the next booth continued, oblivious to our turmoil. I can't believe there's such a wonderful man at my workplace. I'm incredibly lucky. Feel the same way. To think a kind and feminine woman like Mina would approach me. I was over the moon.
Isaac, you're not old at all.
Well, to someone in their early 20s, a guy over 30 and married might seem old, right? I never once thought of you as old, Isaac. From the moment we met, I thought you were incredible. I couldn't believe someone like you would be interested in me. I've always thought you're cute since the first time I saw you.
Really?
Yeah. Even more than your wife?
Of course.
Your wife, she's really beautiful, you know.
Yeah,
Have you seen a picture?
yeah. Well, sure, she looks good. But a woman with such a strong, dominating pride, there's no comfort in that. Mina, you're much cuter. I'm glad. And above all, you're carrying my child. There's nothing happier than that.
You didn't want a child with your wife? Not really. The thought of raising a child with her is just depressing. Really? Absolutely. Seriously. Mina, you're gonna stay home after we get married, right?
Of course.
I have to take care of the home for the person I love and our child. That's right. I always wanted a woman to stay home and take care of the family. That's impossible with my wife. In that sense, it's great Mina is pregnant with my child. Couldn't have a child with her, and that turned out for the best. But your wife, she's been going to fertility treatments, right? Yeah, for over a year now, and still nothing. No chance there. So, you're gonna be with me? Make me your wife? Mina, are you sure about this? Huh? You're okay with someone like me? There isn't someone else, is there? No. There's no one else. All I can think about is you, Isaac. So please, make me your wife soon? I'll try to make it happen as soon as possible. I'll use infertility as a reason to ask for a divorce from her. Really? You're serious? Do you think I'd lie? I couldn't imagine that. So, I'm really going to become Isaac's wife? Of course. I'll start moving on it as soon as I can, so wait for me. Okay, I'll be waiting, with our baby. I'm really looking forward to it. Wonder if it's a boy. A girl? We don't know the gender yet. Maybe we'll find out next month if it's early. I'm really looking forward to it. Never thought I'd become a dad so soon after meeting Mina. Maybe we're really compatible? What, you mean like that kind of compatibility? What do you mean that kind of? Well, if you say that kind, it's that kind. The adorable, smitten Mina I get to see, that kind. No way! Stop it! We're eating! But you like it, don't you? Well, yes, but... Listening quietly with my sister, we couldn't help but were uncomfortable expressions as we were subjected to their vividly inappropriate affair revelations. Michelle, are you really okay? What do you mean? What do I mean? The content is too much to bear listening to. I'm okay. At this point, after hearing all that, I've moved past sadness to disdain and anger. That makes sense. And look here. I pointed towards the window at the side of the semi-private room. Huh? Since it's a semi-private room, the wall by the window isn't completely sealed. So, I placed a voice recorder there. What? Why do you have that? I went to a lecture for work a while back, brought it to record the speech to make a report. It was a long lecture, so I thought I'd miss something. Wow, that's some solid work, high-pride wife. Shut it. It's better to have pride than not, right? Well, yeah. If that's how he wants to play it, I'm playing it that way too. Now that it's come to this, I'll see it through to the end. Got it, I'll help too. Huh? I can help, right? In many ways. Yeah, you're right. I can't just stand by while my sister gets treated like that by such a jerk. Thanks. Anyway, as irritating as the voices next door are, let's eat for now as a form of perseverance. Ah, a rallying meal, then. Right. Look, the dish is here. Yay, let's dig in. Truth be told, I was shocked. There have been ups and downs, but to find out my husband was cheating. Yet, beyond the shock, I let the overwhelming emotions take over, and for now, indulged in the exquisite meal. Delicious. Indeed. They ordered the best course for us here, let's enjoy it. Your husband is really nice. As we ate, I pondered. Now, what to do? That expression must have been clear to my sister sitting across from me. We both grinned and simultaneously brought it to our mouths. A month later, the day finally came. I'm home. My husband's faint voice could be heard as he stepped into the living room from the entrance. Welcome back. What's wrong? Huh? Did something happen? You get it? Well, yeah. Actually. I got transferred. What? Transferred? Yeah, it's sudden but... Where to? Huh? Where are you being transferred to? Alaska. Alaska? They have a sales department there? Oh, no, as a salesperson at the branch. Wait, is this a demotion? My husband, who had been nervous from the start, shook his shoulders and darted his eyes around at my question. I couldn't help but burst into laughter, unable to stop.
You. Why are you laughing? Your husband is being sent away to the sticks. How can you laugh so much?
Because it's too funny.
Demoted because of an affair scandal. What?
What?
Did you just say affair?
I did.
You were demoted to the sticks because of your affair. I'm not wrong, am I?
The look on my husband's face, as if he was hearing broken Japanese, made me burst into laughter again.
Oh, hilarious. Stop making that face like a pigeon hit by a pea shooter. But, how do I know you've been having an affair with a worker? What?
Mina, your company's worker, right?
Oh, should I say was? She got fired because of the affair. How do you know that? Accused of infidelity and you don't even bother with an excuse to your wife. Oh. Well, any excuse now would just be pathetic. Why?
Huh?
Why do you even know about the affair, let alone her name?
It seemed like my husband's brain couldn't keep up with the overload of information. His eyes were darting around. Reluctantly, or rather, with a bit of glee, I decided to reveal a little bit at a time.
Yeah. We happened to be at the place. Celebrating with you guys. Huh?
Didn't notice?
Next to your semi-private room. My sister and I were eating. What? Seriously? My brother-in-law made a reservation for his lonely sister-in-law during my husband's weekend trip. Unlike some husbands sneaking around with another woman.
My husband turned away, his face sour as if he had bitten into a bitter bug.
While we're at it, why don't you call her here too? I'll reveal it bit by bit. How could I do that?
You don't have a choice, do you?
What? There's something you need to tell me, right?
Seemingly grasping something from my words, my husband reluctantly took out his smartphone and started contacting the woman. 30 minutes later, the doorbell echoed in the silent living room. My husband checked the monitor and unlocked the entrance's auto-lock.
She's pretty familiar with this place, huh? What? She came as if it's natural, without even needing the address. Yeah.
Well, I knew that.
Huh? The monitor has a recording function. Oh. Every time, coming in so confidently, I was shocked.
With a look of exasperation, my husband awkwardly avoids my gaze. The doorbell rang just then, and he hurried to answer it. Soon, my husband returned to the living room, the woman in tow, both wearing awkward expressions.
Nice to meet you, I'm Michelle.
I greeted the woman with a bright smile and a nod. She bowed her head in return, but her smile was so forced it was unnatural. No need to pretend to be something you're not.
What? You think you're more suited to be his wife than I am, don't you?
Right, Mina? The woman, now making the same stunned face as my husband had earlier, froze in front of me. The ridiculousness of the situation made me burst into laughter once more.
What are you laughing at? What do you mean no need to pretend?
Sorry.
It's just too funny how you two are reacting exactly as I expected. Expected what?
Exactly as expected.
Sneaking around, thinking you're being discreet with your sleazy affairs, but actually, everyone knows except you two. What? Otherwise, you wouldn't be demoted because of an affair, right? Demoted? What are you talking about?
What?
You didn't know? This guy got demoted because of the affair scandal. What? Isaac said it was a transfer. Well, technically it is a transfer, but, come on, you should understand. You were fired because of the affair, right? Then it's obvious the same consequences would apply to him. Did you also tell her it was just a transfer to cover up the demotion? So what if I did?
That's lame. My husband, looking guilty, turned away, while the woman, her face flushed with anger, seemed not only young but also lacking in thought in many ways, now taking my words at face value and lashing out simplistically.
So what? Isaac just didn't want to worry me by saying it. I'm gonna be Isaac's new wife. And since I'm going to be a wife, I can quit my job without any worries. You're just upset about that, aren't you?
I remember something like that. Planning to become a housewife supporting your loving husband, right? Can I just check something? Listen to this. What I showed them was a voice recorder.
What's this?
This is, well, a precious collection of your commemorative days conversations.
What?
Look, you went to that fancy place, right? Your very important conversations from that day. I'd like to hear it again if you don't mind, okay? Saying that, I placed the voice recorder in front of the two, frozen in place. Pressing play, the conversation from that day started to play. Mina will stay home after we get married, right?
Of course. I have to protect the home for the person I love and our child.
That's right. I always wanted a woman to stay at home and take care of the family. Impossible with my wife. In that sense, it's great Mina is pregnant with my child. Couldn't have a child with her, and that turned out for the best. But your wife has been going to fertility treatments, right? Yeah, for over a year now, and still nothing. No chance there.
So, you're gonna be with me? Make me your wife?
Are you sure about this, Mina? What? Are you okay with someone like me? There isn't someone else, is there?
No. There's no one else. All I can think about is you, Isaac. So please, make me your wife soon.
I'll try to make it happen as soon as possible. I'll use infertility as a reason to ask for a divorce from her.
Really? You're serious?
Do you think I'd lie?
I couldn't imagine that. So, I'm really going to become Isaac's wife?
Of course. I'll start moving on it as soon as I can, so wait for me.
Okay, I'll be waiting with our baby. Ah, I'm really looking forward to it. Wonder if it's a boy. A girl?
We don't know the gender yet. Maybe we'll find out next month if it's early. Glancing at the two, now pale from hearing their own conversation, I paused the voice recorder. So, did you find out the gender?
What?
The gender, you know. You said maybe next month you'd know. It's been a month since then, so I wondered if you found out.
It's a girl.
Wow. Good for you, Isaac. A cute little girl. You always said you wanted a girl, right?
Well, yeah.
So, what are you gonna do?
What do you mean?
What about us?
That is...
You mentioned divorce on that recorder, right?
What?
Oh, right. You also said this, didn't you? I turned the voice recorder back on, fast-forwarding to the relevant conversation. What if your wife resists the divorce? What? Because your wife has no clue, right? She's still trying with the fertility treatments. Well, she can live on her own. She's the type of woman who can work hard and survive without a child. Wow, she's trying hard for a child, you don't know her true feelings. If we've tried this much and can't have a child, it means she doesn't need one. And you, Isaac? I need one, that's why Mina and I are having a child.
So it was fate for Isaac and me to have a baby together?
Yeah, which means she and I weren't meant to be. No matter what she says or does, divorce is already decided. But...
Don't worry. Even if it means giving up all my assets, I'll definitely get a divorce.
So, I'll be taking all the assets then, thank you very much.
What?
You said it yourself, willing to give up everything for a divorce. You want a divorce that badly, right? Especially for such a selfish reason. So, you'll listen to my side, won't you? With that, my divorce from my husband was surprisingly straightforward. I had him sign the divorce papers, which I had already filled out my part of, and proceeded with a lawyer. Later on, our divorce was finalized. Afterward, my husband, or rather my ex-husband, was immediately transferred to Alaska. With the assets I received from the divorce, I bought one-room apartment near my parents' home. From time to time, my sister or my parents would visit, and friends would come over for meals or to stay the night. My new life was more fulfilling than I had imagined, not being tied down by anything. About a month after the divorce, I got a call from my ex-husband.
Hello? What's up? What's up? Do you even realize what you've done?
Huh?
You snitched about my affair to the company. I know you've been scheming against me.
He was yelling from the start. I put the phone on speaker and continued the conversation.
Scheming? You told the company about my affair. That's why I got transferred to Alaska. You're the worst.
Huh? Is that what the company told you?
Like the company would say that to me.
Then why are you saying I snitched?
Some colleagues who came to our wedding saw you visiting the company. Otherwise, there's no reason for you to come to my company.
Huh, so I was seen.
I'll never forgive you. I'm gonna sue you.
Go ahead and sue if you think you can. While it's true I visited your company, I didn't snitch.
What? Don't play dumb.
I'm not playing dumb. I was called to your company by the HR manager.
What? You were called to the company?
Yes. By your company's HR manager.
Huh?
Oh, didn't you know? Your company's HR manager is my sister's husband.
What? Your sister's husband?
Oh, you were too busy having an affair to notice the company announcements, huh? Caught off guard, my ex-husband went silent. I couldn't help but smirk at his reaction. I told you, we went to that place because of my brother-in-law's consideration. Then, my sister would report it to him, right? Everything that happened, in detail.
Huh?
For my sister, seeing her beloved sister hurt by her husband's affair was painful. She reported it while crying. Then my brother-in-law got angry. He was dispatched by the parent company's president for correction of corporate compliance. Actually, my brother-in-law's family owns a well-known major corporation. And my husband's company is one of their group companies. My sister talked to my brother-in-law about me, and he took charge of my husband's punishment.
Corporate compliance correction?
Yep. There were already rumors about shady employees in your company.
What?
Such things seriously undermine corporate order, don't they? It's a nuisance to other employees. And now, with your actions? My brother-in-law, as a representative of the owner company, couldn't let it slide. So, he called me, who had the evidence, to the company.
Evidence?
The voice recorder. It had everything, including you sneaking women into hotel rooms during business trips.
You played that for him?
He asked me to. I couldn't refuse.
That's a violation of privacy.
Huh? Talking about legal violations when you're the one who broke the law first?
What?
Adultery is a tort under civil law. I don't have to take anything you say seriously.
Screw you and your entire family.
Even saying that about my brother-in-law?
Of course. Calling an outsider like you to listen to recordings, that's not treating an employee properly. After all the hard work I've put in like a corporate slave. And then to be demoted to Alaska because of an affair, seriously, screw this.
That's right.
Huh?
Never thought the employee you defended would say such things, right?
Hey, you don't mean...
My ex-husband must have sensed the atmosphere through the phone. He was trying to gauge the situation with hesitant words. Hey there, Isaac. It's been a while since that time.
What, HR manager?
It's unfortunate our reunion has to be under these circumstances. I never thought I'd be told off by you like this.
What? No. It was just a joke. A joke. The sudden transfer to Alaska had me stressed, and I was just venting to her, who I thought would understand.
So, the stress brought out your true feelings? Is that it?
What?
People tend to reveal their true selves when they're cornered. I guess what you said earlier was your true feelings. Don't worry, I've taken it all in.
What? No.
But it's a shame. It seems my efforts didn't reach you at all.
What efforts?
That's right. On top of disrupting the company's morals with your affair, sneaking someone into a hotel during a business trip, using work trips as an excuse to go to hotels, and even engaging in inappropriate activities in the company's storage room and emergency stairs, huh?
What?
As long as there are people aware of it, denying the affair was difficult, but I managed to somewhat obscure the specific incidents and settled it with a transfer. It could have been a case for dismissal, but your brother-in-law helped arrange a transfer instead. If it was so tough that you were stressed, wouldn't dismissal have been better?
No. I never wished for dismissal.
But hey, what did you say to the HR manager just now?
I never thought the manager would be there. Being dismissed is worse than hell. I've given up all my assets in the divorce, and she quit her job, so there's no income.
Sounds tough.
Right? So then.
But you knew that from the start, didn't you?
What?
You're the one who said you'd give me all your assets. We agreed on that after the transfer was decided. Complaining about it now doesn't really hold up, does it?
That's true, but
the situation has changed a bit.
What? What do you mean?
Actually, your shady actions caught on the security cameras have been leaked by someone from another department.
What?
Initially, that wasn't our department's jurisdiction, and those videos are stored for a certain period. Once recorded, there's no telling when or how it could leak.
You said you'd take care of it, didn't you?
Come on, you think I have that kind of power? As my brother-in-law explained, the hidden matters were eventually exposed by someone else. Well, it was impossible to keep it hidden forever. He had barely managed to avoid dismissal, but it seems the consequences of their actions were destined to catch up with them.
So,
the company is reconsidering your punishment due to the unsuitable actions.
What? You're kidding, right?
Well, after all you've done. What goes around comes around. If you make others unhappy, it comes back to you. You've got to clean up your own mess. So, are we done here?
What?
From now on, our ties are completely cut, so live happily with that woman you love so much. Goodbye. I could hear yelling from the other side of the phone, but it no longer mattered to me. With those final words, I ended years of connection. A few days later, I heard from my sister about my ex-husband's disciplinary dismissal. Basically, he was fired, huh? Well, yes. After doing all that shady stuff in the company and causing trouble. Really? That happened? It seems so. Apparently, that woman was two-timing my ex with another man in the company.
What?
Yeah, and it caused quite a stir in the company. He was too distracted by her to focus on his work. So, that's why he was taking her to hotels during business trips and outings? Maybe. Well, she seems to be the source of the trouble. Double timing, huh? No, not just that. What? She's been a temp worker for a while, but when she was a full-time employee, she got involved in an affair with her boss, got snitched on by his wife, and was fired. Since then, she's been hopping from one company to another, always causing male-related troubles. Really? Yeah. My husband got curious and looked into her. He was shocked that his brother-in-law got caught up with such a woman. I'm really sorry. Please apologize to your husband for me. No, Michelle, you did nothing wrong. It was good riddance to that jerk, in the end. Well, yeah. But it's stupid to lose so much over a woman who was playing two-timing games. Indeed. And if she was two-timing, that means the child might not even be his. Oh. Indeed. When I got tested during the fertility treatments, I was told I had no issues. Seriously, that could be a possibility. Well, whatever it is, it's not my problem anymore. In the end, it was my ex-husband who chose a woman like that, so it's his responsibility. Getting divorced from such a man might have been a lucky break for me. Right. You've become quite the catch since the divorce, Michelle. I wonder why. I heard divorced women are popular, but I never thought I'd be in such a situation. Still, be careful. There are definitely men who think a divorced woman is desperate. More than just a few, it feels like they're all just after one thing.
No way! If Michelle gets hurt again, I'd seriously cry. That's true. My sister cried more than I did over this whole mess.
I've always been close to my sister, but this incident brought us even closer. It made me realize how comforting and empowering it is to have someone who cries for you and stands by you.
Don't worry, next time I'll choose someone who makes you feel truly at ease. Really, do that. Oh, that reminds me. I've got a great guy in mind. What? Do you remember Nick? Well, yeah. He's my ex-boyfriend from high school and college. You loved him so much. You broke up because he was assigned overseas. Stop it, will you?
Suddenly being reminded of my ex-boyfriend is embarrassingly awkward. Why bring up Nick all of a sudden? As I puzzled over this, she mentioned, came back last week.
What?
He's working at the headquarters here now. I ran into him at the station. He was asking about you.
What?
Nick said his contact hasn't changed. Why don't you give him a call? With a grin, my sister seemed interested, but I was more caught up in the current whereabouts of Nick. Our young love ended because we couldn't handle a long-distance relationship when he was assigned overseas. I had carried feelings for him for years. Now adults, the urge to talk to him again pushed me to glance at the smartphone on the table.
I guess it's time for me to head home. Yeah. You got this, Michelle.
Sensing the mood, my sister waved goodbye with a smile and left. As the door closed with a thud, I searched for a familiar name on my phone, my heart racing. Taking a deep breath, I dialed the number of someone I hadn't called in years. My name is Allie Smith, I'm 30 years old. My husband, Tom, is a 33-year-old office worker. I experienced stage 0 breast cancer 8 years ago. And now, the breast cancer is back. Sis, you're finally getting discharged tomorrow, huh? I've had a recurrence of breast cancer and am currently hospitalized after undergoing a mastectomy of my left breast. Sis? It's really a shock to lose a breast as a woman. I was prepared, but still. The surgery was successful, but my heart is still heavy. Then, my husband, Tom, came in triumphantly. My husband, who suddenly tells me he wants a divorce while I'm hospitalized for breast cancer.
I'm going to remarry because my lover is pregnant. Move back to your parents' house once you're done with the surgery. The apartment we're living in is mine.
I laughed at Tom, who knew nothing, idiot. You know nothing, do you? I revealed a certain truth to him. Then, he went crazy, then my whole plan is ruined. What's going to happen now? There have been various things leading up to this.
Thank you for everything today. No, thank you.
How about it? Did you find any good places? I have another viewing tomorrow, but my heart is set on the last property we saw. I was working at my father's real estate agency at the time. I was assigned to handle Tom when he came looking for a place. That concludes our explanation. Please read the contract thoroughly, and if you're satisfied, sign it and stamp it. This. Saying that, Tom handed me a small note. I don't want us to stop seeing each other after today. When I got home and opened the note, it contained Tom's email address and phone number. Honestly, I could have gotten that information from the documents, but that would be a breach of privacy. I also felt sad that we wouldn't see each other again. Why can't we date? You hate me, don't you? If you tell me what's wrong, I'll try to fix it. After all, we've already been on what feels like 5 dates. I can't accept that we can't date. It's not like that. I don't dislike Tom at all. In fact, I have a good feeling about her. Then, I've decided not to marry anyone. Why? Did you commit a crime? Or if you're just looking for an excuse to reject me, I don't mind if you just turn me down clearly.
It's not that. I think you wouldn't be happy if you married me. If you're going to dodge the issue with such vague words, then forget it.
Tom turned his back in anger. This is fine, this is the right choice. Even so, I can't lie to my own feelings.
Tom!
When I called out, Tom turned around. He looked like he was hoping I would call him back. He probably wanted a proper explanation. I had breast cancer 3 years ago. There's a high chance it could come back. That's why I might not be able to look after you for the rest of my life. Having a sick person in the family is the hardest on the family members. I don't want to put you through that. Also, due to chemotherapy, my ovarian function has declined, and it's been said it would be difficult for me to have children. I think it's rare to find a woman who brings so little to a marriage. That's why I can't date you. It's because I like you. I might not be able to make Allie happy. But if I marry you, I'll be happy. I like you, no matter what. What does it matter if you're sick, or if we don't have children? My happiness is walking through life together with you. I don't wish for anything else. Let's trust in Tom's broad-mindedness and kindness. With such a strong declaration, he'll surely stay unshaken, no matter what happens. Did you go to the hospital? When he came home from work, the first thing Tom asked was that. For over a month, I've had many days when I felt unwell. Yeah, I went for a checkup. It's breast cancer. It's been 8 years since the last time, but now it's stage 2. I have to have surgery on my breast. Is that so? We've been married for 5 years, so I thought maybe it wouldn't come back, but you never know. Surgery means it can be cured, right? Then let's look on the bright side, let's be positive. I was worried about how Tom would react, but I was relieved that he took it more brightly than expected. So, you're going to be hospitalized, huh? When? I'll be hospitalized a week from now, and the stay is for 10 days. Then maybe I should make lunch for you every day. Hospital food is bland and not very tasty, right? I wouldn't know since I've never been hospitalized. Tom was good at cooking. I'm technically a stay-at-home wife, but on days when Tom comes home early, he cooks dinner. That's it. I'll make lunch for both of us and we can eat together during the hospital's dinner time. I'm gonna visit every day. Tom's cheerfulness was a saving grace. The surgery went well. When I woke up, my sister Kelly was there for me. Since our parents couldn't take time off work, she came in their place. Kelly, what about your job? I was relieved to hear my voice come out clearly. I had no memory after being anesthetized, and the surgery was already over. Anesthesia is amazing, I realized again. I'm what you'd call a freeloader, living off my parents' money at home, a royal freeloader. Kelly was trying to turn everything into a joke. I'll come every day to keep you company and kill time. Write down a list of any magazines or books you want. Nights in the hospital are long, and it's tough to pass the time. Sure, there's always a TV now, but smartphones are banned and it's boring. The anesthesia had worn off, and my head was starting to clear up. It had been a long time since Kelly and I had such a long conversation. Hey, Allie, you're looking good. Kelly came too, huh? That must be reassuring for you. Tom also stopped by after work, but he didn't bring the lunch I was secretly hoping for. He stayed for about 10 minutes, maybe. It seems like Allie is in good spirits, and you sisters have a lot to catch up on after so long. So, I'll leave you to it. What? Tom left shortly after arriving. I'm gonna go buy something to drink. What would you like, sis? Kelly quickly changed the subject. I still couldn't move much. Could you get me some tea, please? I sent Kelly off with that request, but she didn't return for nearly an hour. I started to get worried. Kelly came back, but without any drinks. Her face was slightly pale. You were gone for a while. Did you go to the cafeteria and eat something? What? What's with the scared look? Did you see a ghost or something? I just can't keep it to myself. What are you talking about? Tom is cheating. What? I went down to the first floor to buy a drink. That's when I saw Tom with a young woman, talking in front of the parking lot. When I was listening to their conversation, it sounded like they were dating. No way. Are you sure you didn't mistake someone else for him? I wish that were the case. I recorded it on impulse. Want to listen? My feelings were torn between not wanting to hear it and needing to know. Kelly didn't wait for my response and started playing the recording. When is your wife getting discharged? I was told she'd be in the hospital for 10 days. Then, let me go to your house during that time and take care of everything. I want to look after you. Huh, Sarah, you're quite domestic. You don't look the part though.
Stop it. What's that supposed to mean? But making you happy is what makes me happiest. Ever since I joined the company, I've had feelings for you. The shock when I found out she was married was unbearable. It makes me happy just to hear you say that, even though I'm 10 years older.
I have a thing for older men. The moment I saw you when I first joined the company, I knew she was the one. But it seems like I met you in the wrong order. If it had been before you met your wife, you would have chosen me, right?
Of course. I've realized since dating you, Sarah, that I prefer someone healthy. Allie was always tired and bedridden even before her recurrence was discovered. A marriage without communication is just boring. I wanted to cherish our mealtime conversations, but in the end, I was cooking and eating alone.
They say conversation is the best spice. What would happen if she knew I was here? Would she get jealous? I wonder. Allie is so oblivious, I doubt she suspects I have a lover at all. It doesn't matter if she finds out, actually. But there's something that makes it necessary for her to know. Tom's mind must be racing with what Sarah's insinuating.
I'm pregnant. What?
Remember, we went to a hotel after that drinking party? Oh, when I was completely drunk. It's from that night. Can you even be sure? We've been together since then. Women just know these things. You're going to divorce your wife and marry me, right? There was a moment of silence. What answer would Tom give? Maybe the time has come. I'll divorce Allie. Above all, I'm happy that we're having a child. I'm grateful you got pregnant. At this point, I stopped her. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm sorry, you didn't want to hear this. It's not your fault, Kelly. Thanks, actually. Without this, I might never have realized. I lost all respect for Tom on the day of my surgery. Moreover, bringing his mistress to the hospital where his wife is admitted. Sis, are you really clueless about this woman Tom is with? From the conversation, it's clear she's from Tom's company. Haven't you faced any harassment until now? I have absolutely no clue. But it's only a matter of time before the woman who's pregnant demands a divorce, right? Whether she's really pregnant is another matter. It's like the ultimate weapon for a mistress who wants her lover to leave his wife. Tom, too, would say he's divorcing because of the situation with his mistress. That's a typical line from men who cheat. Maybe we should talk about it once? As I was lost for words, Kelly said, "Sis, lend me the keys to your apartment. I'm going to install a recorder there right now. The more evidence we have, the better it'll be for the divorce court." Kelly was already talking as if my divorce from Tom was a done deal. I didn't want to hurt myself anymore, but I wanted to know the truth. I wanted to hear Tom's true feelings. I handed Kelly the keys to my apartment. The next day, Tom came to visit me after work. Having heard their conversation the day before, I couldn't look him straight in the eye. "Is there anything you need? If there's anything you want me to bring, just request it." Would he go back to our home, where his mistress is, after this? How can he maintain such an unchanged smile, keeping pregnancy and divorce a secret? This is my suggestion. Why don't you stay at your parents' place for a while after you're discharged? I know Kelly has been updating me about your condition, but it would be safer, right? Imagining his mistress confidently staying in my apartment made me feel nauseous. He must be trying to distance himself from me. You look pale today. Are you feeling ill? Want something to drink? Is there anything in the fridge? Hearing these kind words, it's hard to believe he's really cheating. I knew it was camouflage not to get caught, but I still didn't want to believe it. The image of Tom, always a gentleman in front of me, was getting distorted. Tom, aren't you inconvenienced? I decided to probe him. You are good at cooking but not so good at tidying up, right? Clothes left where they're taken off, things left open. Isn't our house turning into a mess? Once I'm discharged, cleaning will be the first order of business. No, it's okay, Allie. You don't need to worry about that. I'll come again tomorrow. Tom left after less than 10 minutes that day. Then, for a week, Tom didn't come to visit me. Even though my discharge was approaching. I thought it might be time to retrieve the recorder. Do you want to listen, sis? I was scared, but knew it was better to face reality. The partner hints at pregnancy and divorce. I've edited it down to just the concerning conversations. Okay? Hey, after you divorce your wife, are we going to live in this room? It's a pretty nice condo, spacious and must have been expensive. Are you still paying the mortgage? This place has been Allie's since before we got married. Wow, is your wife some rich heiress or something? Allie's dad runs a real estate business and owns several properties. This condo was a gift from her father. But no matter how nice the house is, I don't want to live in a house where you lived together. Let's sell this condo and use the money to build our love nest. We can buy stylish furniture and create a comfortable environment. Just thinking about it excites me. Moving means we'll have to ask someone for help, right? I can't lift heavy things since I'm pregnant. But are you sure? I've never checked if I can sell this place. Don't be so pessimistic. If you've been married for 5 years, it becomes joint property, right? Even if you split it with the wife, it would still sell for a lot. This prime location condo must have been worth millions. This part was about the condo Allie lives in. What comes next might be even more upsetting. What more could they possibly talk about? Moreover, this conversation took place in my home. Isn't this just encouraging Sarah, the mistress? Why do you need so much money? Can't it wait until after you sell the condo? It's not like you need to buy anything right away. You don't understand women at all, Tom. That's why you're not popular. Wouldn't you be happier if I always looked beautiful? Look. I have appointments at the beauty salon and nail salon this week, and there are clothes I want to buy. Why are you acting like you don't have money? You don't need to pay the mortgage, right? You should have more disposable income than most. Well, there are expenses. Right, you spend it on your car? I don't quite get it, but you're customizing it, right? I bought an old car and am customizing it to my liking. Tinkering with cars and bikes is my hobby. So, you're not going to buy it for me? You already have plenty of bags, don't you? This is the new collection. I hate the thought of being the only one behind. Even so, didn't I just buy you a watch last month? To date a younger woman, you need money. Don't you understand that? All right. Sarah, you really know how to ask for things. I'll stop here. You probably don't want to hear any more lovey-dovey stuff. I had never heard Tom sound so smitten. Is this the real Tom? Next, there's a recording of Sarah talking on the phone inside the house. You'll see her true colors. She lived in a surprisingly spacious condo, Tom. Not exactly a gold mine, but selling the condo could bring in a good price. Even if I got half, that's like $1 million. What? Pregnant? That's obviously a lie. Who would willingly have a child with a man 10 years older? Just say I had a miscarriage at the right time, most men believe that. He's totally focused on me, so I'll use him as much as I can. You know, my plain office worker persona is just for show. I'm testing how many old men I can charm at the company. Of course, it's all for my boyfriend's sake. What? Spending money elsewhere? Of course, I am. At 23, worth of being office worker needs to be upgraded. I'm gathering designer goods now to elevate myself. Kelly stopped the recording there. I was speechless. Sis, it's better to act fast. First, make sure the condo is secured in a way that you don't lose out. We can't let this outrageous mistress have her way. And on this day, just before my discharge, my husband said, I'm remarrying because my mistress is pregnant. Move back to your parents' house after your surgery. Next to him stood Sarah, the mistress whose voice I had only heard. The condo we're living in is mine, he claimed.
Idiot. You know nothing, do you? The one leaving will be you.
That condo has been our joint property for the past 5 years we've lived there. I don't want all of it, just split it.
What are you talking about?
Are you stupid? Tom hasn't paid a cent for that condo.
If you say you've been paying a loan for 5 years, maybe your claim could stand. But that condo was a gift from my father. And I lived there before we got married. It was given to me by my father. That makes it an exception to joint property. You don't even know this simple fact and just going along with what that woman says. Then what am I supposed to do now?
Tom panicked.
The condo is already being prepared for sale. Tom has no right to live there. If he enters without permission, he'll be arrested for trespassing. Thinking everything will go your way is a huge mistake.
So, you knew about me and Sarah?
I doubt the nerve of a man who can live normally with his mistress in the house while his wife is hospitalized for breast cancer. Wait, Tom, that's not what we agreed on.
Sarah didn't expect things to turn out this way. Still so naive.
If the condo can't be sold, how will you get the money? There's a child on the way. No house, no money, that's fraud. Your pregnancy is a lie, right? The ultimate weapon to catch a man? It didn't have to be Tom. If you're going to trick someone, at least choose someone high up in the company. What's the point in deceiving Tom? If you're going to do sugar dating, aim higher.
I fought back just as hard. I've been fighting a disease. Grateful for ditching such petty lies and greed.
It's pathetic to be a sore loser, isn't it? It must hurt to have your husband stolen by a younger woman. But isn't it just natural? Neglecting your husband because you're not feeling well leads to this outcome. You haven't been meeting his needs at night, have you? Then, isn't it understandable that he'd cheat? What benefit did he get from marrying you? Can't have children, and never know when you'll fall ill again. Should he live only for you? Of course, he'll say sweet things when you get married. Those words from Tom weren't lies at that time. But as time passes, it's impossible to stay at the same temperature. Please let him go.
Sarah wasn't being defiant, rather she was speaking on Tom's behalf. It could make one mistakenly think Sarah genuinely loves Tom. So, Sarah, you're gonna stay with me, right? Even if it means starting in a small apartment with the 3 of us, including the baby in your belly. That's what you mean, right?
Huh? What are you misunderstanding? I was just passing along what you have been complaining about to your wife. After all, you're worthless to me now. Might as well spill everything and clear the air.
What about the money, then? Tom, even at this point, without any concern for his wife's health, brought up money. He must be really desperate for money. I don't care about that. It was Tom's goodwill, wasn't it? That's because you said we'd get half from selling the condo, anticipating a lot of money coming in. We even had a real estate agent confirm it could sell for $2 million. So I believed that. I was shocked to hear how far the conversation had gone. They wanted to sell the condo at any cost to cash in. Don't expect any sense from a 23-year-old woman. Everything I said was a shot in the dark.
Please! Allie, can you lend me the money from selling the condo?
Suddenly, I became the target. Tom looked as if he was about to kneel, completely cornered.
After doing something this terrible, you have the nerve to ask now. When I was down with a recurrence of breast cancer, you were off making a mistress. I'll be filing for alimony, you know. Good for you, Sarah is pregnant.
You wanted kids, right? Well, it's a fantasy pregnancy anyway. But, looking at things now, it seems you and Sarah are done for, aren't you okay? After all, Sarah has a younger, more handsome boyfriend. Tom's complexion changed. Sarah, really? His voice became sugary when addressing Sarah, which was frankly creepy. As if he believed he was getting younger. Who knows, but that's not your concern, is it? Then, at least pay me back the money, that's all I ask. Who knows what will happen? Sarah, you have all these expensive brands, but did you really need to go into debt to buy them? Did you know I was made a guarantor for your debts? I was astounded by his foolishness. Didn't he understand that under no circumstances should one become a guarantor for debts? Was he that blinded by Sarah? Anyway, I'm moving out of the condo today. Tom, you better start looking for a new place soon. We were going to live together, weren't we? Have I not been clear? I find no attraction in a penniless Tom. Sarah left the hospital room after saying that. Where did her confident face from when she arrived at the hospital go? Tom was left in a daze. I don't know how much debt Sarah racked up, but it's clear she won't be paying it herself. That's why Tom is stunned. We're getting a divorce. And I'll be filing for alimony. People who succumb to temptation and pleasure once will do it again. I pushed Tom away without a shred of sympathy. But I do want to thank you for marrying me. For choosing to marry a woman who might not be able to have children, who had a risk of breast cancer recurrence. I needed to say that. Your parents came to visit yesterday, didn't they? Ah, Kelly, you were out then. I had returned to my parents' home after being discharged. The condo found a buyer, and my father plans to give me another one. It's good to have a wealthy real estate agent as a father. See, Tom ends up penniless and kicked out. But that doesn't excuse what I've been through. I involved a lawyer for the alimony, and suddenly Tom's parents came. They paid the alimony in full on behalf of Tom. They just kept apologizing. Isn't Tom ashamed to make his parents do such a thing? It's really appalling. Thinking back on yesterday's scene, it pains my heart too. So, what happened between Tom and that mistress, Sarah? They're done for. Sarah was only after the money from selling the condo. She wouldn't glance at a penniless Tom. After all, Tom's company is full of middle-aged men. Sarah targeted the company from the start. They weren't planning to hire female employees, but Sarah forcefully attended an interview, charmed the interviewer, and got specially hired. Her ability to manipulate older men at her young age is something else. Well, in 3 or 4 years, her youth won't sell anymore. Maybe she'll marry that boyfriend of hers, what was it, Pippi? In the end, things went exactly as Sarah wanted. She squeezed everything she could out of Tom, even making him a guarantor for her debts, a total victory. Now, Tom is running from debt collectors. There have been collection calls at his work, and he's even been ambushed outside, leading him to quit his job. I heard this from Tom's parents yesterday. A year has passed since then. A year was enough time to heal the wounds of sorrow. At least for me. Wow, sis, you look beautiful. You really look great in dresses, probably because you have that exotic look. Kelly, maybe it's time for you to think about settling down too. I've had the luxury of having 2 weddings after all. I still want to enjoy myself for a while. But I had no idea you and that nurse were together. When did that start? He took care of me during my hospital stay and even after I started outpatient visits, always encouraging me with positive words. Being a nurse, he must have faced the end of life before. Yet he said he didn't want to lose me. Why did you keep it a secret? Romance between a nurse and a patient is considered taboo. So we really kept our love quiet. I see. But I'm glad you've recovered. After such a breakup, it's great that you met someone even better. And you're pregnant too. Yes. I never thought I could get pregnant. I had resigned myself to the idea it wouldn't happen for me, so the joy was even greater.
My new husband has brought so much happiness. With renewed spirits, I took my first step down the aisle.
Long time no see. Still childless? Guess you're just defective since you can't even show off a grand kid. Even though there's been a lot between Susan and me in the past, looking back, it still feels like my guts are boiling with anger. After all, the harassment for not being able to have children has been too much. I don't know how badly she wanted grandchildren, but blaming me 100% for not being able to have children is something I really wish she'd stop. To think there are people who would say something as awful as calling someone defective, in a way, it's almost impressive. I'm at the park right now. And I'm not alone. They're right over there. The look on Susan's face when I said that. The grandchild she must have been so desperately wanting to see was right there. But reality is cruel. She hasn't realized that what she's done will come back to her, how blissfully unaware she is. It's about time she realizes. I won't let her forget now. I'm Rachel, a 45-year-old housewife. I love children, which led me to earn a teaching license at university, and I worked as a teacher at a public elementary school. Being a teacher had its tough moments, but the joy of being involved in the children's growth made me feel like it was my true calling. I was devoted to my job, but one day, a childhood friend introduced me to someone. That was how I met Simon, my husband. Simon was 25 at the time. He had graduated from college and was working as a teacher at a middle school. He seemed to struggle with finding opportunities to meet people. Being busy with work at the middle school. He hadn't dated much, focused on his studies through college. He had talked to a friend about wanting to try dating, which led to the introduction. When I was introduced to Simon by my friend, I wasn't seeing anyone and was focused on my work. So, I wasn't too keen on the idea, but since my friend had gone through the trouble of setting it up, I thought I might as well meet him once. I remember that day clearly. We had arranged to meet at a cafe, but he was quite late. I thought to myself, if he doesn't show up in the next 30 minutes, I'll leave. Just then, I saw someone running into the cafe. I'm so sorry for making you wait. Simon arrived, out of breath, looking like he could barely stand. No, it's okay. I was just starting to worry, that's all. Actually, one of my students asked me for book recommendations. We got so caught up talking about it that I lost track of time. Hearing his response, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. At the same time, it was clear to me that he wasn't a bad person. Someone who could get that excited about books with a student must be well loved. And imagining Simon getting so involved in recommending books to a student that he forgot our meeting made him seem all the more endearing. I'm sorry for laughing so much when we've just met. I want to know more about you. Do you? Seeing your smile made me feel like my nerves just disappeared. You were nervous? Yes. Well, I didn't expect to meet such a wonderful woman. Simon said, somewhat shyly. Come on. I'm almost 35, you know? I'm probably quite a bit older than you. I'm 25 now, but age doesn't matter to me. From there, Simon and I got to know each other better. His passion for work, his kindness towards others, and most importantly, the respect he had from his students became very clear. It seemed Simon thought highly of me too. It hasn't been long since we met, but I'd regret it if I didn't say this now. Would you consider dating me with marriage in mind? Simon looked at me, his face turning red. I had already made up my mind. If it's with you, I think we can build a good relationship. Spending time with Simon was always enjoyable. Even outside of our dates, I found myself wanting to be with him more. Then, Simon proposed. Ever since I met you, Rachel, I've thought how nice it would be to be together forever. Will you marry me? Yes. I feel like I can be happy with you, Simon. I didn't hesitate with my answer. We met each other's parents and decided to get married, Simon and I. The idea of marrying the person I love and living together was something I couldn't have imagined a while ago. When getting married, we discussed our future work and the possibility of having children. One of the reasons I fell for Simon was because he genuinely respected my thoughts and life choices. I want to continue working even after we get married. Above all, I love my current job as a teacher. I've always felt that about you, Rachel. But what about kids? I'd like to have them if possible, but I want to respect your decision when it comes to actually having them. Of course, I want children too. It might be hard balancing work and family, but I hope we can start trying for a baby soon. Simon and I agreed to try for a baby within our capabilities while continuing our jobs. Such things are blessings, after all, and not entirely within our control. However, we were oblivious to the brewing storm in our peaceful life. I'm heading out for work. Got it. You'll be back by dinner, right? Take care. After seeing Simon off, I was having coffee alone in the living room when the doorbell rang. Hello, Rachel. Hello, Susan. Simon's at school for sport practice. What's up? Then, Susan, Simon's mother and thus my mother-in-law, seemed disappointed for a moment but quickly turned to face me and blurted out. It's almost a year since you got married, isn't it? Yes, thanks to you. That's not what I mean. Before taking care of other people's children, you should have your own. If you can't even manage that, you might as well quit your job. Susan looked at me with frustration, as if her message wasn't getting across. That's quite sudden to say. Isn't it about time? Or were you planning to wait until you're in a stable condition? Are you talking about having a baby? You are 35, right? It's normal to have 2 or 3 kids by now. The sudden inquiry about children took me aback. But this isn't something I can control at will, so I decided to be honest. Simon and I have talked about it, and we'll let you know as soon as there's good news. What are you talking about so carelessly? I can't understand how you can be so laid back about this. I was puzzled by her increasingly anxious demeanor, considering she seemed calm when we met before our marriage. I'm sorry if I make you feel something. But this isn't something I can manage on my own. So, what? Are you saying it's Simon's fault? As she said that, Susan stormed into the room. Then, from inside, I heard Susan's voice. What's this machine? I bumped my foot against it. I'm sorry. That's an air purifier. An air purifier? This big? I have a dust allergy, so I'm extra careful about air quality. I'm sensitive to house dust, and it can make me sneeze uncontrollably. It's also for keeping the air clean. Sorry if it's in the way. Susan let out a huge sigh. Huh? Are you saying you're coddling yourself? Coddling, you say? That's right. You're making your body weaker by fussing over dust and garbage. If you need fresh air, just open a window. Unfortunately, we live on the 2nd floor of an apartment in a busy area, where exhaust fumes are a concern. Well, but with the exhaust gas, we can't really open the windows much. Relying on such a nonsensical machine. That's why you can't have kids. Susan looked at me as if she was absolutely certain she was right. If you really want children, come to my house next week. Yeah, but... It's fine. My husband isn't around, and I'm the only one there, so it won't bother anyone. The thought of going there made me feel gloomy. Next week, I visited Susan's house. Come this way. Susan took my hand and led me into the living room. As soon as I entered, a strange scent hit my nose. Excuse me, but this smell... I was at a loss for words to describe the strange aroma when a cup that seemed to contain tea was presented to me. Here. This tea is supposed to be good for your health and make it easier to get pregnant. Am I supposed to drink this? What about you, Susan? I'm not drinking it. They say good medicine tastes bitter, so I'm being harsh for your own good. Susan declared, pushing a bag resembling paper into my purse as I struggled with the bizarre color and smell of the tea, which seemed undrinkable. What is this? Don't go through someone's bag like that. Don't talk to me like I'm a thief. This tea, if you drink 4 cups a day, it's supposed to be effective. And next, there's this. Susan continued, pulling me towards the yard where I saw a mountain of laundry.
What's with all the laundry?
I asked, puzzled by the sight of gauze towels, tiny clothes, and bibs that clearly weren't Susan's.
A friend gave them to me. Touching and washing children's things supposedly makes pregnancy more likely. It's also good practice for when you have a child.
She explained, bringing out a large tub as if it were the most natural thing in the world.
Washing with all your heart is said to welcome a child into your womb.
She added before leaving me alone with my disbelief. Simon and I indeed wanted children and discussed waiting without stress for the right time. Yet here was Susan, pushing bizarre practices on us. Frustrated but unable to leave without doing anything. I washed and hung the children's clothes as told.
Susan, I'm done. Then come back the day after tomorrow and wash like you did today. But I have work.
Work?
You can find time before or after work if you really want children.
She countered, pushing me to the limits of my patience. Out of sheer stubbornness, I followed Susan's instructions. Washing unknown children's clothes by hand in the cold night air, leading to severely chapped hands despite using hand cream.
What happened to your hands?
Simon asked with concern, hesitant to share the truth about his mother's outdated superstitions. I eventually told him about Susan's belief that hand-washing children's clothes could lead to pregnancy. Additionally, since Simon also expressed a desire for children, I was worried about speaking ill of his mother.
Actually, your mom has been asking if we have children yet. She told me that hand-washing children's clothes could make it easier to get pregnant, so I've been going to her house every other day to wash them.
At this, Simon looked at me with disbelief, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing.
What? She really thinks that'll work?
Simon pondered for a moment before speaking with a sense of resolve.
I'll talk to Mom, so you don't have to go over there anymore. Actually, Mom said she's going to try living on her own since there's some inheritance from Dad, and she wouldn't cling to her son or grandchildren. And I'm going to see a doctor. Why the doctor? Because pregnancy isn't just about the woman, right? Maybe the problem lies with me. It's better to know.
He explained, his reliability shining through. He always considered my troubles as his own.
Thank you, but don't overdo it. It's for you, Rachel. Staying silent while this is happening would be harder.
He reassured me. Yet, Susan's behavior didn't change as expected.
I've spoken to Mom. You don't have to visit her house anymore.
Thank you. I'm sorry to make you do this, Simon.
Don't worry about it. Turns out, the difficulty in having kids might be because of me.
Simon admitted with a hint of regret.
But the doctor said it should be fine with medication and regular visits. We'll see how it goes, and if nothing changes, we'll think about it again.
It seemed like the issue was resolved, but it wasn't over yet. Susan, however, didn't take this well. Despite Simon's efforts to intervene, she sent a package filled with books on pregnancy and a letter expressing her anger, misunderstanding her persistence for concern. The books were about pregnancy and parenting, showing significant signs of wear. Honestly, I harbored mixed feelings of anger and disbelief towards Susan for going this far. When I shared this with Simon, it seemed he felt the same way.
Even though I told her to stop, she's still doing this?
What should we do with these books? Even if she tells us to read them, honestly.
Mom must be so desperate for a grandchild she's not seeing clearly anymore. I'm really sorry for putting you through this.
Simon expressed, choosing his words carefully after some thought. It's undoubtedly a tough spot for him, being caught between me and his mother.
She is my mother, but the person I want to protect the most is my wife, Rachel. If it comes to hurting you carelessly, I'll need to reconsider our relationship with her. But even so, she's still your mother, right? I don't want you to have any regrets if something happens. We might have to attend family functions, but beyond that, we don't need to interact more than necessary. I'm really sorry for not realizing this sooner.
I'm sorry for all this, Simon apologized. Simon and I agreed to minimize contact with Susan, setting boundaries for our peace of mind, acknowledging the stress she was causing. Simon has been sending some money to his mother on his own, but since this is a matter between parent and child, I've decided not to say anything about it this time. He understood my decision to limit interactions with his mother. Affirming his priority was our well-being over maintaining unnecessary stress from family expectations. It had been about 10 years since the incident with Susan's problematic behavior. I was leisurely sitting on a bench in the park, enjoying a coffee for the first time in a long while, when I heard a voice from behind. "Long time no see. Still childless? You're basically defective for not being able to show off any grandchildren." I didn't recognize who it was at first. But, even though she had gotten much thinner and smaller, it was Susan. It hit me that some people never change, demeaning others as defective right off the bat. Her spiteful gaze made my once warm coffee seem to turn cold and taste bitter, making me realize how much someone's emotions can change their sense of taste. "Oh, Susan. Why haven't you shown your face, huh? You haven't been saying unnecessary things to Simon, have you?" "I never meant anything by it." Susan poked the ground near my feet with her cane and said, "What's the idea behind avoiding your husband's mother to such an extent?" I said as she looked me up and down, oozing sarcasm. "Sitting here, drinking your coffee so elegantly in the park, you must feel so good about yourself," she continued, unchanged from the day she demanded I wash a stranger's baby clothes. I had been living peacefully for the last 10 years without running into Susan. I didn't want to see her, but I mustered up the courage and spoke up. "They're right over there." Susan looked momentarily stunned but then burst into laughter, as if the idea of me having a child was the funniest thing. She probably always assumed it was impossible for me. That's why I think she can adopt such an attitude without any qualms. It's her prerogative to believe that happiness comes with having children, but I wish she wouldn't impose her values on others. She then turned serious and glared at me, making me brace for what was coming. "What's this all of a sudden? Aren't you quite a bit older than Simon? No way you could have kids." Certainly, I am older than Simon, but being older doesn't justify the assumption that I can't have children. It's an unfair conclusion, she claimed, ignoring the fact that many couples with age gaps have children all the time. I took a deep breath, ready to speak my mind. "So," when Susan put her finger to my lips to silence me, as if saying I shouldn't say anything more. "You should have just done as I said. Whatever you've told Simon, running away like that. No child would be born to such an accursed person," she declared, her presence imposing. Despite 10 years of estrangement, I felt a genuine threat from her. The thought of being swallowed up by this situation filled me with dread. As I was being lectured by Susan, Anna and Emma came over, looking concerned. "Mom? What's happening? Do you know this person?" "This person is..." I hesitated on how to introduce Susan to Anna and Emma. Despite my bitter memories, she was their grandmother. Was it right to separate them based on my feelings? As I was pondering, Anna and Emma have never met Susan, nor have I ever mentioned her, so they would never imagine that she could be their grandmother. Anna and Emma started whispering among themselves, loud enough for me to hear. "Anna, do you think this person is?" "Yeah, Emma, I think so too. She was here the other day as well," they speculated. Susan, pretending not to notice their whispers, moved closer to Anna and Emma, trying to touch them with trembling hands. The girls looked unsure how to react to this stranger extending her hands to them. "Could it actually be Simon's children? My grandchildren?" Susan moved closer as if it were a touching reunion, despite the girls' clear discomfort at the sudden approach of a stranger they had never met. Then, taking a few steps back, Anna and Emma said to Susan, "You're the nagging grandma from the store, right?" "What do you mean?" "Do you think so too?" "I thought the same." Suddenly, they got excited, and I couldn't follow what was happening. "She's always at the store near our school." "Right.
We always see her yelling at the clerks. What do you mean? She's the lady from the store near our school. She's famous for shouting at the clerks, demanding her money back all the time.
Exactly.
She only yells at the young people, but when the manager with the name tag is there, she doesn't say anything.
I had never heard such stories before. But it was clear she was picking her targets.
It's just that I'm teaching them that they should listen to their elders. I'm doing the right thing.
What? Anna and Emma looked at me, perhaps thinking I was being unfairly accused by the nagging store grandma.
Mom hasn't done anything wrong. Please stop.
They pleaded as Susan pretended not to hear and moved closer. For Susan, this encounter with Anna and Emma might have seemed like a momentous reunion. Tears welling up in her eyes.
Are you really my grandchildren? Well, since we've met, let's have a good look at you. Don't come any closer. If anything happens to Mom, we'll hear this.
Emma threatened, brandishing a large, brightly colored personal alarm. Susan seemed to shrink back at the sight of the alarm. Anyone would flinch if threatened with a personal alarm being sounded. It's not often that a grandmother is met with her grandchildren brandishing a personal alarm, treating her like a suspicious person. I instinctively moved to ensure their safety. And Susan began to tremble.
What?
It must be a shock to be treated like a stranger by the grandchildren she had longed to meet, I thought, seeing her shake. Susan looked significantly diminished in her state of trembling. However, I was more concerned about something else and decided to confront her further.
According to Anna and Emma, you've been demanding refunds at the store? Why is that? Because they're pushing useless stuff on me, and it's causing me trouble.
Susan responded, her tone suddenly firm, insisting she had done nothing wrong. I decided to ask what Susan would least want to hear.
Are you having financial difficulties? Is that why you can do such embarrassing things in public? Embarrassing? Don't say such disrespectful things to your elders.
She snapped back, clearly disliking that I had hit a nerve, her bravado faltering.
But normally, it's embarrassing to act so boldly only towards young clerks. To not feel that embarrassment, well, that's just like you, Susan. Enough. Shut up.
Susan bit back in frustration. Then Anna, with a puzzled expression, said,
This lady always brings out empty containers after eating and yells for a refund.
Indeed. Waving around empty containers and shouting was quite an extreme behavior.
What? What do you plan to do with an empty container? I don't really know. But they were saying something about a poor old person doing such things.
I realized these were the children's words.
Are you perhaps struggling with money?
Yes.
It's terrible to grow old and be in need of money.
As far as I can remember, Susan's house was filled with numerous high-end items. She probably spent all of the money from my father-in-law.
Living in hardship due to financial trouble must be tough. If you understand, could you send me a little money? $3,000, no, $2,000 would be enough.
I avoided Susan's approaching gaze.
I must decline. What? After all that you've done, expecting help when you're in trouble is too much.
Then, Susan glared at me in frustration.
You really are heartless. To not extend a helping hand to a frail old person like me.
She looked at me as if she was entitled to help, as usual.
But there's no need for that. It's all self-inflicted. How pitiful for these children to be raised by a parent like you.
Then, Anna and Emma stood in front of me and said to Susan,
We're not pitiful at all. We love our mom, so stop saying mean things. If you say anything more cruel, we'll really go to the police.
Susan was speechless at Anna and Emma's sudden retaliation. It must have been shocking for her to be threatened with police by the grandchildren she longed for.
If that's how it is, shall I give you what you currently need? Really?
Of course.
Just wait a moment.
I ran to a nearby store and bought something.
What's this? Do you think I'm old enough to use this?
I placed adult diapers in front of Susan. The package labeled Comfort Care Diapers was enough to intimidate her. Susan's face turned red with anger. You made me wash children's clothes until my hands cracked, saying it was practice for when you have children. Don't you remember? Susan's face became uneasy. After mumbling for a bit, she whispered,
That was for your own good, and I wanted grandchildren quickly. All my friends had them, and I was the only one left out.
So, it's the same for me. For Susan's sake. Wanting grandchildren just because others have them, are you a child? Susan glared at me resentfully.
Treating people as old or as children, you'll see karma.
It's convenient for you to do as you please, but not others. Then, Simon's voice came from behind. He happened to see us.
You're not still harassing Rachel, are you? Harassment? That sounds so harsh. It was just a little.
I explained the recent events to Simon. It seems Susan is out of money. She's been causing trouble at the store. Last time I visited, her house was filled with high-end bags and wallets. Simon's usually calm expression turned stern.
Mom, wasn't it a lie that you'd live off Dad's inheritance without bothering us? And didn't you promise not to approach Rachel anymore? Well, running into Rachel was just a coincidence.
A coincidence? In such a big park, especially a children's park, running into Rachel by chance, who would believe that? Susan fell silent, hit by Simon's accurate guess. You've been hoarding high-end items, still doing that?
Well, I just bought bags and shoes to match the places, and they piled up.
I've been sending a little money from my allowance, and you were buying bags and wallets to the point they were rolling around? I told you before to only buy what you need. I feel betrayed. Then Susan clung to Simon.
It's all a mistake. A lie.
What's mistake? A lie? It's clear you're lying, Mom. Don't contact us anymore. And of course, I won't send any money. Simon turned and walked away without looking back at Susan. Susan collapsed on the spot. Rejected by her own son and unable to recover.
If you had just had children sooner. If you had them while I could still see.
It's not like I had children for Susan. With that, I left with Anna and Emma, hoping never to see her again. I warned Anna and Emma to be careful of Susan when going to school, but it seems they never encountered her again. One day, we got a call from the hospital. Apparently, a few days after our meeting, Susan tripped and fell at a supermarket step. When asked to pick up Susan from the hospital, I found her shrunken figure in the bed, along with the supermarket manager and a police officer. Susan had a bad fall, breaking her leg. It turned out she had been secretly taking items, and the store had been keeping an eye on her.
Well,
I don't want to hear any excuses. It's embarrassing, so please don't contact me again.
It can't be helped. Simon used to send them to me, but now they're gone.
I was stunned and speechless.
Also, no matter who I ask for your contact information, no one will answer, so I was feeling lonely.
I guess so. Apparently, she was trying her best to get in touch with me again. I must have been asking around hoping someone would tell us where we were. Susan has always believed that anyone will listen to what she says. But I had taken precautions in advance. I told everyone about her actions and about the unpleasant experiences I had experienced in the past, and at the same time asked them not to give out my contact information. I didn't want to imagine meeting a selfish person like her again. So, no one gave her our contact information. I heard that some of them were refusing her calls, so she must have been quite disliked even among her friends. Anyone would definitely keep their distance from such a person. I wasn't particularly surprised when I heard that her calls were being rejected. Susan ends up spending every day alone and feeling lonely while in the hospital. It seems that due to the stress, she has been hitting people at the hospital and is being given strict warning. That's fine for now, but I wonder what will happen in the future. The way she continues to run wild without realizing how much she is hated may be considered typical of her. I am spending happy days with Anna, Emma, and my husband. I wondered what would happen when I ran into Susan in the park, but I'm glad I took the plunge. I'm glad I consulted my husband about all the problems. We worked together to receive treatment and were able to meet the two daughters. I also realized that if we don't value others, it will come back to us.
Mom, come here. Come on, Mom.
Anna and Emma are looking at me with big smiles. I ran over to catch up with them and gave them a big hug. I want to live my life savoring the happiness of being able to spend happy days like this with Anna, Emma, and my husband.
Oh no! I'm gonna call an ambulance.
I reached for my phone as my oldest son's wife, Julie, collapsed from her chair right in front of me. She started screaming in pain, curling up in a fetal position. Just as I was about to dial, my young grandchild stopped me. "Grandma, you don't need to call." Hearing the reason why my grandchild stopped me drained the color from my face. My grandchild knew all about the unbelievable plan. My name is Lisa, and I'm a 54-year-old web designer. My husband, who works for a major trading company, has been stationed in France for the past 9 years. He comes back home for emergencies and important occasions, but mostly he doesn't return. We both love our jobs, so I have no complaints about him not being around. My job, simply put, can be done from anywhere as long as I have a computer. We considered moving to France together when my husband got his assignment there, but we decided against it for a reason. Right around the time his assignment was confirmed, my oldest son and his wife were expecting a child. We've been living with my oldest son and his wife since they got married. Julie's parents live far away, and it seems her brother and his wife live with them. Julie's delivery was expected to be around the same time as her sister-in-law's, making it difficult for her to have her baby back home. This child would be my first grandchild. And with me working from home, I thought I could provide support for Julie during her first pregnancy. My husband agreed it was best for me to stay. My son, Tom, after graduating from a vocational school, works at a local auto repair shop. Julie took a short break from her part-time job before and after giving birth but returned to work quite early. She now works part-time at a nearby cafe. I still remember what Julie told me shortly after we started living together. "Since you work from home, I'll leave the housework to you," she said with a bright smile. Sure, I work from home, but that doesn't mean I have a lot of free time. Julie only works part-time either in the morning or afternoon. She clearly has more time to manage household chores. Yet, she acted as if it was natural to neglect her share of the chores. In the end, the household duties remained divided between my husband and me, just as they were before we started living with my oldest son and his wife. When you live with more people, of course, the household chores double. My oldest son and his wife, Julie, acted as if they were guests, not lifting a finger around the house. It was all very convenient for them. Meanwhile, my husband and I struggled with the increased workload, busier than ever before. And now, all the household responsibilities have fallen squarely on my shoulders. I was overjoyed when my first grandchild, Natalie, was born. My husband had to go abroad soon after, so he was a bit sad, but it couldn't be helped. Natalie was incredibly cute from the moment she was a baby. And now she's 9 years old. 9 years old is such a sassy and adorable age for a girl. Natalie has grown into just such a cheeky little girl. However, Julie seemed disinterested in Natalie right from when she was a baby. Julie has always said she's not good with kids, so I was worried about leaving her in charge of raising Natalie. In the end, since I work from home, I ended up taking care of Natalie as well. Julie probably changed Natalie's diapers the least in the family. She only showed affection when it suited her, neglecting all other aspects of care. It was cherry-picking parenting at its finest. I think Natalie was about 3 years old at the time. I was incredibly busy with work. It was what you'd call a peak season. For me, working freelance, missing a deadline could spell disaster. I was frazzled, trying to juggle work, housekeeping, and childcare. But such a pace couldn't last, and one day, I collapsed from overwork. Lying exhausted on the living room sofa, Julie's words upon returning from her part-time job were shocking. "Please go pick up Natalie from daycare." This is no time to be lounging around. You haven't even done the laundry yet. I can't believe you're just lying there without doing any housework." At that moment, my face must have been as pale as a ghost. Tom came home just 5 minutes after Julie and, seeing my condition, hurriedly called the hospital. I will never forget the words Julie said to me when I was clearly unwell. Reluctantly, after Tom suggested it, Julie went to pick up Natalie, but not before giving me a disdainful click of her tongue. I'll never forget that either. Tom took me to the hospital where I was diagnosed with exhaustion and ended up staying the night. Going home meant returning to chores. So Tom suggested I stay in the hospital so I could actually rest. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in ages. I must have been truly exhausted. Though I recovered physically, I had fallen behind on several work projects. Frustrated, I focused even harder on my work. And I made it clear to Julie that I wanted her to share in the household duties. It was probably because Tom was listening. Julie unusually agreed with a seemingly earnest attitude. However, her words never turned into action. She started to help with the chores a bit, but essentially, I was still the one managing the household. I had to remind myself that not everything can improve at once. Or else I felt like I might snap at Julie. Thinking of living with my oldest son and his wife as a test of my patience made things a bit easier to bear. As Natalie grew, I noticed Julie was quite vain. Before parent-teacher meetings, she always bought new clothes. While I could somewhat understand if it were Natalie's clothes, Julie only bought for herself. Natalie is now at an age where she wants to dress up too. But she is left out. Always wearing hand-me-downs or thrift store finds. Julie seemed to be deceiving Tom about her spending. She showed off Natalie's thrifted clothes as if they were a bargain. Then flaunting her own new clothes as if they were thrift store treasures too. She's quite cunning. I prefer not to meddle too much in my son and his wife's affairs, so I never commented on this. All I could do was take Natalie shopping for new clothes each season. Seeing Natalie's happy face became my joy. I believe this is how a bond stronger than just grandmother and granddaughter formed between Natalie and me. Please don't spoil Natalie too much, mother-in-law. Buying her too many things isn't good for her education. If you're going to buy something for Natalie, buy it for me instead. When Natalie and I came back from shopping for clothes, Julie was waiting for us, fidgeting irritably. Natalie shrank back, hiding behind me. "Julie, you buy plenty for yourself. And it's not like we're spoiling her, we're just replacing clothes that she's outgrown each season." I was so taken aback by Julie's attitude. I had been feeling that Julie's spending had been getting out of control lately. Probably because she's trying to keep up with her friends. Many of whom are doctors' wives or daughters of company presidents, and started wearing more brand name items. I understand the desire to show off, but there's such a thing as living within your means. I've kept quiet, but don't you think you've been a bit reckless with money lately, Julie? I know you want to keep up with your friends, but Tom's salary can only stretch so far. Do you realize how much Natalie's education is going to cost as she gets older? I had reached my limit. It was unfair to Natalie, who must feel wronged. She's at an age where she wants to dress up. That should be understood by her mother, but Julie prioritizes herself. It's like she lacks maternal awareness. Julie, you're a mother. Please be a role model for Natalie. Julie's face turned red in a flash, as if my words hit a nerve. She seemed to want to retort but couldn't find the words, just grinding her teeth in frustration. It must be frustrating for her to be hit so close to home. I hope she takes this as an opportunity to reflect on her life. I hoped this would make her reflect on her lifestyle. But then things started to change. "Mom, are you feeling all right? You look pale. Are you overworking again? You're not getting any younger, you know." Tom asked me at breakfast. It had been years since I could sit down to a meal. Since I spoke up, Julie began to take on more household duties. She hasn't done much with laundry or cleaning, but she's decided to take charge of the meals. From breakfast to dinner, Julie has been preparing all the meals lately. Really? I haven't taken on more work, and Julie has been helping with the chores lately, so I should be feeling lighter. But I just feel so sluggish. Maybe it's my age. Lately, my health has been surprisingly poor. I wake up feeling so sluggish it takes me a while to get out of bed. Just a little movement makes me dizzy, and my head is constantly in a fog. It feels different from when I collapsed from overwork before.
Are you okay? I'll make something easy to digest for lunch,
Julie says with a cheerful voice, but without any real concern. It almost feels like she enjoys seeing me suffer. Thinking that makes me feel ashamed of myself for trying to blame my condition on someone else. Julie has been trying to change for the better. I need to respond to that effort. Thank you. Your cooking is always so thoughtful and delicious. I'm looking forward to lunch, I managed to say with a smile. However, Julie's cooking has a unique taste to it. Honestly, it's pretty bad, although I always eat it saying it's delicious. Tom and Natalie seem to eat it without complaint, so maybe it's just my taste that's off. After all, it's hard to believe Natalie would find something unpalatable to be tasty. Perhaps this is all due to my poor health. After eating the udon soup Julie made for lunch, I felt so unwell I had to stop working and rest in my room. I'm too dizzy to walk straight to the hospital. Could there be a serious illness hiding? The more I think about it, the more anxious I become, unable to sleep. Mother-in-law, are you okay? I thought maybe something warm to drink might help you feel a bit better, Julie says, bringing in a tray with hot milk. The Julie of the past would never have made such a gesture. If she had shown such remorse and changed her behavior earlier, I would have spoken up sooner. The mug emits a gentle steam. I added a little sugar and vanilla to make it easier to drink. Sniffing the aroma, I indeed notice a sweet scent different from regular hot milk. Thank you, I'll have some, I said as Julie watched me drink the hot milk intently. Almost as if she was observing to make sure I drank it all, which felt a bit uncomfortable. The hot milk was sweet and tasty, but it left a strange, bitter aftertaste. Thanks, it was delicious. I appreciate it, Julie, I said as I handed her the empty mug. That's when I noticed something gritty at the bottom of the mug. As I squinted to see what it was, Julie, noticing my attention, quickly hid the mug behind her. Well, please rest up. I'll think of something easy to eat for dinner. You need to eat well to regain your strength since health is your wealth, Julie said with encouraging words before leaving the room. I felt my dizziness worsen and closed my eyes gently. Even with my eyes shut, it felt like the ceiling was spinning. I couldn't help but worry about when my health would return to normal. I decided to take a taxi to the hospital tomorrow. Grandma, are you okay? The next thing I knew, it was already evening when I woke up. Natalie, who had returned from school, was peering at me with concern. Ah, Natalie, welcome back. Did you have fun at school today? Natalie nodded happily at my words. Yes. Just as she was about to say something, the door opened and Julie appeared. Natalie swallowed her words upon seeing Julie. She looked a bit scared of her. Dinner will be ready soon. You have to eat, even if you're not feeling well, Julie said, urging me towards the dining table. All right, I replied and got up. That's when Natalie tightly grabbed my hand. She seemed to want to say something but couldn't with Julie present. Julie, sensing this, didn't move at all. Reluctantly, I led the way to the dining room where dinner was ready. A delicious-looking menu was prepared for tonight. But for me, it was a painful task. It's not Julie's fault. My taste has just gotten a bit weird. Please eat a lot, she says as she offers the simmered ground pork over radish. The silky meat sauce on the pure white radish looks perfect. I proceed to eat, thinking it must really be delicious. And I was surprised. It was truly delicious. Julie, this is really good, I say, feeling happy with the taste for the first time in a while, and start reaching for other dishes. They all taste delicious, and I'm relieved to feel my sense of taste returning. I excitedly tell Natalie how delicious it is. Natalie looks tense for some reason. Just as I'm about to ask her if something happened, Julie, standing in front of me, collapses from her chair.
Julie! What's wrong? Are you okay?
Julie starts moaning on the floor, with sweat beading on her forehead.
This is serious. I'm gonna call an ambulance.
I reach for my smartphone in shock, but Natalie gently stops me. Grandma, you don't need to call, she says with a serious look. Despite her mother suffering, she says not to call an ambulance.
What?
I reply, dumbfounded.
Because Mom did something bad. She put something weird in your food. I switched them. I switched Mom's dish with yours.
Natalie says with tears in her eyes, desperately explaining. Shocked, I hesitantly taste a bit of Julie's dish on my tongue. It was unbelievably terrible and my tongue felt numb even from just a little taste. I immediately suspected something was off. But I couldn't just leave Julie suffering.
Natalie, thank you. You saved me. Let's take your mom to the hospital now. We can talk about this later.
Saying that, Natalie nodded solemnly and handed me my phone. The ambulance arrived quickly, and Julie was taken to the hospital. Watching Julie suffer in the ambulance, I shuddered at the thought that it could have been me if Natalie hadn't been so quick-witted. I felt nothing but gratitude towards her. After receiving stomach washing and an 4-drip, Julie seemed to calm down a bit. The doctor explained that it appeared some medication had been mixed into our dinner. A little bit wouldn't have been an issue, but the combination or a large amount could be dangerous. This time, traces of a drug that should never be mixed were found. When I mentioned my ongoing poor health, the doctor immediately ordered a blood test. The results were shocking, indicating long-term consumption of the medication found in Julie's stomach. It made sense to me then. My taste wasn't off. Julie had been adding medication to my food for a long time. Probably slower to affect me than she anticipated. Today, it seems she added a large amount, including a dangerous combination. Maybe she intended to finish things today. Regardless, it was a terrifying thought. I told Tom everything once he arrived at the hospital, asking the doctor to explain the medication part since I couldn't do it well. Tom was understandably shocked. He might not be able to believe his wife had been trying to harm his mother. He stood frozen in the hallway, and Natalie, hugging him, said in her young voice, "Dad, it's not your fault." Tom, holding Natalie tightly, apologized tearfully. I thought he was sorry for the past and likely for what was to come. The next morning was when I was finally able to speak with a somewhat recovered Julie. When I stood by the bed, Julie glared at me.
It doesn't seem like you think this is your own fault, given that attitude.
I sighed, appalled by Julie's demeanor.
Why are you still up and about? Are you unusually sturdy or something?
Julie retorted sharply, even while lying in bed.
What was so unsatisfying for you? Was I in your way? Well, you can rest easy. By the time you're discharged, we won't have to see each other again.
At my words, Julie's voice trembled. What do you mean?
This is from Tom. He said he can't stand to look at your face anymore.
I explained, unfolding a green document in front of her. It was a divorce paper, signed by Tom. Julie's eyes widened in shock as she stared at the divorce paper. She probably never thought Tom would suggest divorce. Tom had always been on Julie's side, because I had advised him to support his wife over his mother if any conflict arose. I've also had my share of struggles with mother-in-law issues. I knew the struggles of being a daughter-in-law all too well. Tom understood my perspective correctly. But this incident was beyond any regular family dispute. It was life-threatening. Tom had made his decision.
Lies. Tom wouldn't leave me. What have you told him? You should have just died.
Julie yelled, still lacking the strength to move on her own. The medication she had administered must have been potent.
Even Natalie always takes your side. Such a disloyal daughter, not helping her mother. Despite everything I told her, she betrayed me. I shouldn't have had her.
Julie's harsh words were too much for me. I could tolerate her bad-mouthing me, but I couldn't believe she would slander her own flesh and blood. It was a relief Natalie wasn't here to hear this.
So, you don't think all this is your own doing? You have no intention of reflecting on your actions. Do you even know what reflection means?
I felt utter contempt for Julie. Struggling in frustration, Julie couldn't move freely yet. She probably wanted to grab me.
Here's a business card for a lawyer. When you can move your hand, sign the divorce papers and send them to the lawyer right away. If you don't agree, I'll go to the police and tell them everything. Even if it doesn't get to the police, I'll reveal everything if it goes to court.
I left her hospital room after saying that. As soon as I closed the door, I heard Julie yelling, "Witch!" It sounded like the howling of a defeated dog to me. A smile naturally came to my lips. I felt surprisingly refreshed. Later, Julie signed the divorce papers and mailed them to the lawyer as if she had resigned herself to the situation. Tom immediately filed them at the city hall. They were officially divorced and became strangers. At that time, Julie was still hospitalized, and her parents had come to visit her from afar. Hearing about the divorce, Julie's parents were furious and stormed into our house. Tom and I explained everything, showing the medical reports to Julie's incredulous parents. They seemed convinced after seeing the documents and deeply apologized at the end, repeatedly thanking us for handling the situation quietly, making us feel almost embarrassed for their gratitude. There was no apology from Julie. However, she kept calling Tom's phone, saying, "I want to see you." Tom has continued to ignore her, wanting nothing to do with her. The custody of Natalie went to Tom. Julie's hospitalization lasted longer than expected, and I heard she still has some paralysis. She's supposed to live with her parents in the countryside for a while. Her return home as a divorced woman has made her the talk of the neighborhood. It didn't take long for the details of the divorce to spread. Julie became known locally as the failed wife who tried to poison her mother-in-law and was sent back to her parents' home. The paralysis serves as proof of the rumors, and she can hardly go outside. Locked in her room with the shutters closed, she remains in the dark. She still muttered curses about me. It's just frustrating that Julie doesn't realize sooner that this situation is entirely of her own making. My health improved quickly after I stopped eating Julie's meals. The medication prescribed by the doctor to neutralize the drugs must have worked well. I also believe that the absence of stress has accelerated my recovery. I was worried that Natalie might be depressed about her parents' divorce, but she has become even brighter and more active than before. Julie's presence must have been somewhat stifling for her. It's heartening to think she's returned to her true self. My husband will be returning from France next spring. Natalie seems to be eagerly awaiting the reunion with her grandfather, whom she hasn't seen for a while. When my husband returns, it will be much more lively. I want to quickly forget the unpleasant memories and focus on creating a joyful future. Being able to watch Natalie grow up is the greatest happiness I